Here we go. Another day, another process show. I am Josh Engleman for Stokastic.com. It is Tuesday, July 5th. We are breaking down last night's MLB results. We're going to look at today's MLB contest for the 12-gamer. I do have golf lined up, but I think it's going to be a little bit easier to just take a look at that tomorrow because I've been spending some time this morning digging into some data, and I think we need to make couple changes, just some things that I've observed. So I want to bring that forward to you guys. Before we do that, like, subscribe, notification bell, find that thumbs up, hit it. Helps me out a ton. Doesn't really cost you guys anything other than a button click. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. Activity about to start increasing. Keep your eyes peeled for that. Then go sign up at PrizePicks, the presenting sponsor of this show. Awesemo is the promo code. AWESEMO gets you $100 as a match deposit bonus at PrizePicks. You put in 50, they're only going to give you 50, but if you put in 100, they will match with $100. It is a fantastic deal. Please do not sleep on that. Go check it out now if you haven't played at PrizePicks yet. So, this morning, I was totally neutral-ish on last night's slate. I took the standard issue beating. Nothing really crazy. Manoah wasn't very good. I had a lot, maybe a little bit less than the field. Mania was actively bad. I had a little bit less than the field. Didn't really matter all that much. I was lighter on Urias. Flexen, I had a little bit. Doesn't really matter. Walker, I had a little bit. Doesn't really matter. Cole Irvin, I had a little bit. Doesn't really matter. Just a really awkward slate across the board. But that's not really what I'm worried about. And just to show the exposures, when it comes to hitters, I had 24% of Bo Bichette, 20% of Acuna, 20% of Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Will Smith. These are my most owned hitters. That's not the point. I'm happy with the names that are there. That's not what I'm looking at. I started digging into ownership, and I was starting to feel as though I was maybe a little bit too contrarian in the construction of my lineups, given the lack of stacking that we're at least trying to put forward. It's probably not as necessary to be as restrictive with the combinations that I'm landing on. So what that meant was that I needed to find out how contrarian I was being. So what I did first was take a look at just my lineups. And based on the ownership last night, this is all stuff you can do in lineup study. My average sum of ownership in my 150 lineups was 120%. My average FC projection, which is what I actually just have in here, easier for me to take a look at projections that are outside my control. Average projection was 102.75, which is fine for right now. But 120 average aggregate ownership was interesting to me. My thought process was, where does that land in comparison to the 150 maxers that play the biggest contest, which is the relay throw last night? And I have that pulled up here. Relay throw last night, average ownership across all of the 150 maxers, which was, 46 different people. The highest average ownership, which was this a train? No, it wasn't even a train. Interesting. Highest average ownership was 215%. Now I'm 95% short of this, but we see, Hoff at 178, Goodsab at 176, Hubro at 173, Big T at 166. Then we get Steve and Eddie are both basically the exact same from an average ownership perspective here. 161.89, 161.85. Still way higher. We're not even close to where I'm at right now. As we continue to scroll, you see more names. There's Adam sneaking in, shit my money, 142. So as we look at it, my 120 is basically the lowest ownership to anybody that played this contest. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be wrong, but to me, on the surface, feels wrong. I don't think that I need to be as contrarian in the aggregate if I'm not also bringing stacks to the table. I think that I'm playing a bit. I'm swapping out of quality a bit too aggressively in comparison to just simply taking the best plays. Now, I don't want to overreact and go too far to the top of this list, but I definitely think that I'm leaving some ownership on the table and I'm not getting the same sort of value out of it. Because if we just go back and look at this again, what is my actual number? 120.01. So it's the second lowest of anybody. I would be in between Hishbu and C Mason at the bottom. And I just don't think that works. Like, even if we look at Adam, average FC projection, and you're basically going to see that the average FC projection is going to be in line with the ownership, because what we're just talking about here is you give up ownership and give up fantasy points, and there's a relationship between those two. If you want to be ultra chalky, you're going to have the highest projection. You're also going to have the highest ownership. Not necessarily great for winning a contest. What you want to be able to do is give up ownership while giving up the least amount of projection possible so that you get the double benefit. But as you can see, like, even these guys in the 130s, 140s are picking up 4 to 5 additional fantasy points on average more than I am. Like, my average fantasy points for each lineup based on the FC projections, 102.75. So if we look at that right here, 102.75 would be the third lowest mark. Now, 102.75 would come in slightly behind Ricky D, but he's also, what 129 divided by 120, 8% more owned. Like, I need to get into that 130 range, get a little bit of these points back, balance the leverage in my lineups a little bit more realistically. I think I'm spreading it out too much. This is what we're going to learn. I've never played baseball without trying to stack before. It's a completely different scenario that I'm trying to understand as we work our way through this. And we got to try to pick up these things as we work our way through, because what I'm seeing right now, if I'm able to have this much more ownership, I don't really need, no one else is really doing what I'm doing. Like, if we just assume that the 150 maxers are the best that we're going to find in here, and I just want to get rid of big time stacks. So there are 6,900 lineups that have been, I'm pointing at the screen like you guys see that. There are 6,900 lineups that were made by 150 maxers in the relay throw last night. If I get rid of the 5-man stacks, the 4-4s, the 4 and all of the 4-man stacks, and just leave the 3s, we're down to 380 lineups, and the large majority of those are in 2 different people, Adam 2761 and DJS Internet. Those guys made up basically everything that wasn't fully stacked. The amount of non-stacked like no real stacks here is negligible at best. No one's putting together my lineup construction in bulk, so there's no reason for me to be as contrarian as I've been being. I think that normally when I run my crunch, I set a minimum leverage score based on what that slate looks like for the day. So it changes every day. I think that now I'm being too constricted with that leverage score, and I should be able to open up the range a little bit more, take on a little bit of extra ownership, and get back a little bit more projection, because the construction of my lineups is not like the construction of everybody else's lineups. Like, here are the stacks that everybody used here that aren't 5s and 4s. 3 2s, 2 2s, 3 3 2s. Like, it's still stacky-ish. If we look at what I had yesterday from a stack perspective, let's go ahead and grab the team stacks list. You'll see that's not the right one. Team stack, where is it? Where is it? There it is. Team stack type. Got it. So as we look at mine from last night, it's a little bit more spread out, just like a general, like a 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, whatever it is to get to 8, 51 of the 150 times, 2, 2 with a bunch of singles. Those 2 alone are making up 75% of my lineups. Bunch of 2, 2, 2s. So I'm already different enough here. I don't really see the need for me to stretch it out all that much further. I think that I can just play a little bit chalkier, deal with the leverage that's in the lineup after the fact, not before the fact. Just, anything that's just aggressive chalk. Like, let's say last night I would have just started jamming in Mets bats, I guess, or Dodgers bats. I don't want to get away from that as much as I actually did. And that's where we can see, if I just remove the pitchers here and then lump this together by stack, you'll see highest owned stack last night was the Mets, which we knew going in. I'm very light on New York. Now, I don't necessarily mind that. That's not the biggest problem here. But I'm also very light on the White Sox. I'm under on the Dodgers as well. The only reason I'm not under on Atlanta is because we projected them lower, 6% to 12, 6% to 11, 1.5 to 9, 4 to 8. Like, we just missed on Atlanta, which we kind of saw coming. Or I probably would have been under on all of these top teams. I don't think I need to be like that. I think I can soak up a lot more chalk now, and it's not going to negatively impact me. Like, there's no downside. Whoa, I don't know how I did that. There we go. We're back. There's no downside to me to having even like close to the field of the Mets. Or maybe like a better example would be, I think the Mets are probably the good example. There's no downside for me to have more of these guys if they grade out as well as I think they do. I think that's a completely reasonable stance to take. The Dodgers are probably like in a similar example where, maybe I don't need 25% Mookie Betts, but maybe 15 looks a little bit better, and he's still Mookie Betts. Like, Mookie Betts at 4,300 should be 25% owned. And I think that I'm being overly restrictive and not getting to enough, because at worst, I'm going to have a 2 or 3 man Dodgers stack that no one else is also participating in. So I think that I'm going to open up the reins a little bit, and we'll see what that impact ends up being. But as you can see, down $27 last night. I did get... close this out here. I did get 2 lineups into the top 1%. Got 116th and 154. Another one in the top 2%. So knocking on the door. I'm not mad at the lineups that I had last night. I just think that I can make them slightly better, and that's going to be the goal. So, top lineup was Urias, Taijuan Walker for me last night, but all of my one-offs were pedestrian. But there are very clear places where I could have been a little bit better here, in my opinion. We'll see. We're going to make those changes as we move forward. For now, let's take a quick look at baseball contests for today. Big slate, actually. We got 12 games up top, and we've got more contests today than we did yesterday. And I assume that is something that you guys care about. We've got the Freedom Series once again. So the 10K free roll is available for you guys. I highly recommend that you get in it if you can. But everything's bigger today. So yesterday, $250,000 prize pool to the relay throw. That's fine. It's up to 333 today. The batter's eye is up to 100,000. The four-seamer is up 25,000 to 60K. The contest across the board, just bigger in general, bigger prize pools. That works for me. I would like to continue doing 150 max, particularly after what I saw from last night. So we are going to get into the mini max. It's all right today. It's the 50-cent mini max, I might add. So that'll take us to 75 bones. We're not going to get into the four-seamer, unfortunately, although I do think it looks really good for today if you're still playing $100. The four-seamer for $80 is the contest that I think that you guys should be getting into with regularity. But I'm just going to do the $75 here. I'd like to do the skipper, but I don't love the contest. But let's get a single bullet into the skipper as well. And that'll hit us 100 on the dot. I don't have too much else to add. Like, if you've got the money, you should be getting into the relay throw or the batter's eye. I think the relay throw is the best contest you're going to find. That should not be all that surprising. But if you don't have a ton, get into the four-seamer for $80. I love the contest. I love the structure. If I were doing a slightly different, like, even if I wasn't doing the no stacking thing and I didn't just need extra data from entering the mini max, like $80 for the four-seamer is a great contest. You can get, what, 6K or whatever to win it? You can't beat that. I'm going to take a sip of coffee. Throat hurts. So good. Love coffee. That's all I've got right now, guys. But I want to continue to detail this process of evaluating my lineups after the fact. Because, look, 2 1%ers, it's not all that bad. But my range of ownership is just not something I'm happy with. Like, you can see 185 here is what's shown at the top, 157 at the bottom. But here's where I thought it got interesting. This is where it piqued my interest. This is my final point before we get out of here. We look at the low end. Basically, from 50% to 84 is what's visible on the screen. 50% ownership to 84. Those are low numbers, clearly. If I go back to the relay throw and I just look at Adam's lineups, 50 to 84 or 96 to 118. My highest ranked lineup that shows at the bottom of this screen doesn't even get into Adam's list. So I am playing 30 lineups that are just way too not owned, and I don't need to do that at all. We're going to correct that problem today. So that is today's message. I don't need to be as contrarian as I was in baseball. We'll see what that looks like in practice tomorrow morning after tonight's 12-game slate. Watch the deeper dive tonight with myself and Adam if you want to get our deets on the slate. Good luck to you guys. I don't even know how to talk. Good luck to you guys today. Enjoy whatever contest you're getting in, whether that's like Wimbledon or I guess MLB is probably like your only other real option. We're back again tomorrow. We're going to look through PGA contests. Absolutely. It's the Genesis. Every single contest this week for golf is the same as it was last week. So whatever you played last week, play it again. But we'll look at those contests tomorrow. Good luck, everybody. We're out of here.